Hello, thank you for joining this video. Today we are going to talk about security settings in Marketing Cloud Engagement. Okay, so thank you for clicking on this video and we are going to go to the setup. Of course, we need to be an admin or at least a security administrator to have access to all of this. And then we are going to go to the bottom left in security settings. Okay, so in this video, I'm going to talk about the different security settings as well as different Salesforce recommendation to have some kind of guidelines and to understand, okay, what does it correspond to. Okay, so maybe you want to start with the official documentation that will give you the different explanation about every settings. So this documentation is helpful, as well as the Salesforce recommendation. Here you can take a screenshot and then check with your settings to see, okay, if it's relevant for you or not. So let's go to the setup. Of course, if you want to modify anything, you need to click on Edit. Okay, so let's go line by line. Here you have session timeout. It will be typically, okay, when you don't have any activity on your Marketing Cloud account, after how long does it disconnect you? So typically you have the shortest 15 minutes and of course longest 8 hours. I chose 1 hour because usually I change from one tab to another, I do some research and so on. But yeah, if we look at the recommendation, it will be 20 minutes. Of course, security is always kind of a battle, a choice between usability, comfort, and security. Okay, require a secure connection, so HTTPS to use and connect to Marketing Cloud. Here's the question we are being asked is if a user never connects for example, 30 days, should his logging expire? So that's a question, because if you have some API users, for example, you will need to connect from time to time to their account, and someone can quickly forget about that. So it can create some issue as well with connections later on, or if someone goes on PTO, paternity leave, maternity leave, why not? So that's something to have in consideration. The recommendation here is 90 days. I would agree, because I guess the reasoning behind would be, okay, if someone never connected for 3 months, maybe they left the company or something like that. But it's something to have clearly in mind, in consideration. Here the question is invalid logins before lockout. How many times I will let someone attempt to log in before we locked out that individual? So 3, 5, 10, and so on. Here's the minimum username length. It's particularly interesting when we create new users, and when we create new user, we need to put a username. So how short or how long we want it to be. So we have a minimum of 4 characters or 10 characters. Yeah, okay. Here, allow users to grant account logging access for support. Here the question is, when we create a case with Salesforce support, they don't automatically have access to our account to check our settings and so on. So here the question is, do I want to let my user grant account logging access for Salesforce support? Me personally, I would say yes, because Salesforce support doesn't have the possibility to do any change on your account. Salesforce support cannot send an email or modify or whatever. It's simply to impersonate, to see what you see on your platform, what are your settings. So it's way easier for the support to troubleshoot and to understand what's going on without having to asking you back and forth. And anyway, logging access are temporary, so it can be for 7 days, 1 month, and so on, but it's not forever. Okay, so here, very, very interesting, very important. Restrict logins by IP address. So here's a question. I have 3 options. Either I would say no, any IP address can connect to my account. Either I said yes, any IP address can connect to my account, but I will keep some logs to understand which IP came with which users and so on. Or no, I would have a strict IP allow list, and I will list some IP, but any IP outside of this range will not be able to connect. Okay, let me show you a bit more about that. So it will be here in login IP allow list. And here I don't have anything. But that's normal. If I wanted to create some, of course I could click on create. What I choose to, because it's way more convenient, because of work from home, sometimes you may want to connect from your mobile data and so on. So I don't have a clear list of all the IP range list. As well, if I use some company VPN, who knows what would be my IP? I don't even know. So I let it like that. But just in case tomorrow you have some kind of issue, I want to investigate a bit more, you can click on View Access Log. And here I will have the IP address as well as the login and the date. So it can be helpful if we want to investigate something in the future. Okay, so to do so, again, I'm going to go back to my security settings. And to have the same setup as me, you would choose log allow list violation, or you can disable it completely or enforce the list. Okay, now the question is, this list, do we have a different one for each business unit, or do we have one at the enterprise level? So one on the enterprise level and all the business units will have it inherited. Okay, then password. Here it's kind of obvious settings, how short my password can be, how complex should it be, and does the system will remember the past password and let me use the previous one, for example, or the previous one, and so on and so forth until the 15th. When do I want my password to expire? In 60 days, 90 days, 1 year, never. Okay, now all these password settings, do I want them to apply to my API users? And do I want them to be applied on my FTP users? As you know, FTP users are kind of special and are created on the FTP account section. And do I want them as well to have a password that expires, to have minimum length, or do I want them to have different kind of policy regarding that? And maybe someone will want to have FTP user that have a password that never expired and think that security-wise it's fine. Or I want to enforce these settings as well. Okay, talking about password, it can become irrelevant for you if you choose to go through SSO. So single sign-on. Why? Because SSO is enabled first at the company level, like mine right now, and also at user level. So I can choose, okay, user 1 will use SSO and user 2 will use a password and username. I cannot have both at the same time, meaning I cannot have the same users that will use SSO and username and password. It's either one or the other. Our recommendation is to always let, or at least one user with without SSO and admin access in case something goes wrong on the SSO side of things and you need to do some kind of modification, you won't be locked outside of your account. Okay, here use the non-specific SP identity ID. So when you download your, this is SSO details by the way, but we use SAML, SAML. And we have the same entity ID for every Marketing Cloud Engagement account. Or you can also have a specific one that will be specific to your enterprise, to your whole Marketing Cloud account. For every enterprise account, well, I mean for the enterprise ID and the child business unit as well. So it's just to have a specific identity ID for this account. Okay, another one that I really like is the export email allow list that you can see here. So basically, look, it can go like that. Let's say I'm an employee and for whatever reason, can be a good one or a bad one, I want to send to my personal email some data, some customer data. Maybe I want to export data extension with all the customer and so on. Or also I send it to the wrong email address, and it can be a security issue as well. I don't want to send my customer data to a random email address, right? So to avoid this kind of issue, I would go to export email allow list, and here I would put the email address and the only email address that can receive export. So I can choose a specific email address, like mine, for example, my Salesforce email address, or I can say every email address that belongs to the Salesforce domain can be exported to. So I would put, how do you say that, asterisk, like this, all, the stars, and then at salesforce.com. For example, if I want to allow every email address on the Salesforce domain. I think it can be a good settings because it's not that much of an issue because I just have to add some email address, right? It's not like the IP allow list. That can be much more of a trouble if it's forgotten some IP address, right? I can just allow the email address along the way, and it kind of helps me to know, okay, who is trying to export what. And same question as for the IP. Should I have a different list for every business unit, or should I just do one list at the enterprise level? Okay, for connection security, I would let you take a look at that, and if it's really relevant for you, you would find information on the documentation, and you can raise a case to Salesforce support. Or we can talk about that in another video if it's relevant for you and you want to know more. Now, the last thing I would like to check with you is the audit trail. So audit trail, I'm going to do a specific video about that, about how to enable it, how to put it in place, what you can have with it, but just in a few words. So if you cannot edit and check in, even if you have the admin right, that's normal, because even with the admin role, you will need to go to the permission. You go to permission, you assign yourself a specific permission that would be audit trail permission allow, and it will work for you. And then you can enable that. Okay, the whole point of it is it will run in the background and create some logs about what's happening. There is a free version that is included in your Marketing Cloud account, and you have a paid version. The free version gives you, okay, who connected, from which IP, is the MFA was successful, at what time, and so on. So you have another file, and then you can know, okay, who modified, which roles, which permission, more on the user side of things. Who enable which user, and so on. On the paid version, you will have more information regarding the platform, more on the wide side of things, meaning who sent an email, who stopped the automation, who created this automation. And all of that, let's say you have an issue yesterday and you want to have more information about that, but you didn't enable audit trail. Audit trail is not retroactive, it's only start to record when you enable it. So I guess it's always a good practice to enable it. We never know when we are going to need it. So yeah, I would recommend to just enable it and then dive deeper into that if you are interested. Okay, well, thank you for watching this video until now. Let me know if you have any further question, if you want something more specific on some feature, if you have some feedback. Thank you again for watching it, and see you on the next one. Bye bye.